Hello, True Crime and Makeup, and welcome to another True Crime and Makeup Monday on Tuesday. Hope y'all are ready for this. I'm going to try to keep my glasses on as much as possible because I do struggle to read from a distance without them. It's probably not going to work, but I'm going to try anyway. And here we are, and let's get started. The Zodiac Killer is the pseudonym of an unidentified serial killer who operated in Northern California in the late 1960s. The case has been described as the most famous unsolved murder case in American history, becoming a fixture of popular culture and inspiring amateur detectives to attempt to resolve it. The Zodiac murdered 5 known victims in the San Francisco Bay Area between December 1968 and October 1969, operating in urban and suburban settings. He targeted young couples and a lone male cab driver, and his known attacks took place in Benicia, Vallejo, unincorporated Napa County, and the city of San Francisco proper. 2 of his attempted victims survived. The Zodiac himself claimed to have murdered 37 victims, and he has been linked to several other cold cases, some in Southern California or outside the state. The Zodiac originated the name himself in a series of taunting letters and cards that he mailed to registered newspapers threatening killing sprees and and bombings if they were not printed. Some of the letters included cryptograms or ciphers in which the killer claimed that he was collecting his victims as slaves for the afterlife. One of the four ciphers, he produced 2 remain unsolved, and one was cracked only in 2020. While many theories regarding the identity of the killer have been suggested, the only suspect authorities ever publicly named was Arthur Lee Allen, a former elementary school teacher and convicted sex offender who died in 1992. Kind of happened to a nicer guy, in my opinion. Shit. Although the Zodiac ceased written communications around 1974, the unusual nature of the case led to international interest that has sustained throughout the years. The San Francisco Police Department marked the case inactive in April 2004, but reopened it at some point prior to March 2007. The case also remains open in the city of Vallejo, as well as in Napa County and Solana County. The California Department of Justice has maintained an open case file on the Zodiac murder since 1969. Now, it says that they've maintained it since 1969, but some of the departments did close it and then reopened it later. So it has not just remained open as they stated originally. Although the Zodiac claimed to have committed 37 murders in letters to the newspapers, investigators agree on only 7 confirmed victims, 2 of which survived. They are David Arthur Faraday, 17, and Betty Lou Jensen, 16, shot and killed on December 20th, 1968 on Lake Herman Road within the city limits of Benicia. I'm so sorry if I'm mispronouncing anything. Michael Renault Magoo, 19, and Darlene Elizabeth, 22, shot on July 4th, 1969 in the parking lot of Blue Rock Springs in Vallejo. While Magoo survived the attack, Vernon was pronounced dead on arrival at Kaiser Foundation Hospital. Sad. I mean, they're all sad, but she was so young. Brian Calvin Hartnell, 20, and Cecilia Ann Shepard, 22, stabbed on September 27, 1969 at Lake Berryessa in Napa County. Hartnell survived 8 stab wounds in the back, but Shepard died as a result of her injuries on September 29, 1969. Paul Lee Stein, 29, shot and killed on October 11, 1969 in the Presidio Heights neighborhood in San Francisco. The first murders, widely attributed to the Zodiac killer, were the shootings of high school students Betty Jensen and David Arthur Faraday on December 20th, 1968, on Lake Herman Road, just inside Valencia city limits. Benicia city limits. Sorry, not Valencia. I don't know why I put an L in there. This is hard. Okay. The couple were on their first date and planned to attend a Christmas concert at Hogan High School before stopping at a local restaurant and then arriving and then driving out on Lake Herman Road at about 10. Oh god, I got something in my eye. Hold on. So sorry, that burning sensation was like intense. Ooh. I don't like it. The couple were on their first date and planned to attend a Christmas concert at Hogan High School, about 3 blocks from Jensen's home. They instead visited a friend before stopping at a local restaurant and then driving out on Lake Herman Road. At about 10:15 p.m., David parked his mother's Rambler in a gravel turnout, which was a well-known lover's lane. I feel like that's pretty much where everyone was targeted, but, like, it was a lover's lane. But, like, that makes me never want to go to anything like that, like, ever. Just saying. Shortly after 11 p.m., their bodies were found by Stella Borges, who lived nearby. The Solano County Sheriff's Department investigated the crime, but no leads developed. Sounds about right. Utilizing available forensic data, Robert Graysmith postulated that another car pulled into the turnout just prior to 10 p.m. or to 11 p.m. and parked beside the couple. The killer may have then exited the second car and walked toward the Rambler, possibly ordering the couple out of it. It appeared that Betty had exited the car first, but when Michael was halfway out, the killer shot him in the head. The killer then shot Betty 5 times in the back as she fled. Her body was found 28 feet from the car. So I mean, it's a pretty fair idea that they were told to get out of the car. But I don't know what I would do in that situation. I would like to say that I would never get out of the car, but what do I know? The killer then drove off. Just before midnight on July 4th, oh boy, I didn't know this was white, and now I have concerns that this is just not going to go well. Oh no, it's okay. That was almost bad. Like, it blends to reveal your color, which is good. Okay. Sorry, y'all. I just bought that, I got that when a local Walmart here went out of business. And I was like, I didn't know it was white, but okay. That works. It works. It works. Anyway. Just before midnight on July 4th, 1969, Darlene Farron and Michael Magoo drove into the Blue Rock Springs Park and Vallejo, 4 miles from the Lake Herman Road murder site, and parked. While the couple sat in Darlene's car, a second car drove into the lot and parked alongside them, but almost immediately drove away. Returning about 10 minutes later, the second car parked behind them. The driver of the second car then exited the vehicle, approaching the passenger side door. Hold on. Of Darlene's car, carrying a flashlight and a 9mm Luger. The killer the flashlight in Michael's and Darlene's eyes before shooting at them, firing 5 times. Both victims were hit, and several bullets passed through Michael and into Darlene. The killer walked away from the car, but upon hearing Michael's moaning, returned and shot each victim twice more before driving off. On July 5th, 1969, at 12:40 a.m., hold on, sorry. Okay, on July 5th, 1969, at 12:40 a.m., a man phoned the Vallejo Police Department to report and claim responsibility for the attack. The caller also took credit for the murders of Michael and Betty 6.5 months earlier. Sorry, this is like hard to do when you can't see. Police traced the call to a phone booth at a gas station at Springs Road and Tuolumne, located about 0.3 of a mile from Darlene's home and only a few blocks from the Vallejo Police Department. I feel like as a cop, I would be so mad if I got to like the location of where that call came from, and only to find out that it wasn't even that far from where I was at, and I missed the guy. Like, they could have had him so many times, but technology wasn't what it was today back then, and I just feel like I would be so mad to find out that he was right there the whole time. The whole time. Like, I had him. He was right there. You know what I mean? And I feel like if it ever is discovered who the Zodiac is, like, we're all going to be super freaking surprised that it's, like, a cop. I honestly, I speculated for years that I thought it was a cop. It just makes sense to me that a cop would have all that forensic knowledge and, you know, whatnot, and, yeah. On Darlene was pronounced dead at the hospital. Michael survived the attack despite being shot in the head. Excuse me. Despite being shot in the face, neck, and chest. Michael described the attacker as a 26 to 30-year-old, 195 to 200 pounds, or possibly even more, 5'8", white male with short, light brown curly hair. Are you sure? Are you sure you're sure? Sorry, I gotta clean up this black eyeshadow creation I just made. Okay. On August 1st, 1969, I can finally put my glasses back on. On August 1st, 1969, 3 letters prepared by the killer were received at the Vallejo Times-Herald, the San Francisco Chronicle, and the San Francisco Examiner. The nearly identical letters, subsequently written by someone you would expect to be brooding and isolated, took credit for the shootings at the Lake Herman Road and Blue Rock Springs. Each letter also included 1/2 of a 408 symbol cryptogram, which the killer claimed contained his identity. The killer demanded they be printed on each paper's front page, or he would cruise around all weekend killing lone people in the night, then move on to kill again until he ended up with 12 people over the weekend. Sorry, that was a quote. Until I end up with 12 people over the weekend, end quote. The Chronicle published its third of the cryptogram on page 4 of the next day's edition. An article printed alongside the code quoted Vallejo Police Chief Jack E. Stilts as saying, "We're not satisfied that the letter was written by the murderer. Requested the writer send a second letter with more facts to prove its identity. The threatened murders did not happen, and all 3 parts were eventually published." Like, I know cops get, like, so much shit because, you know, they're not all good people, and I fully agree with that. You know, you've got there's a bad apple in every bunch. And so I fully agree with people's views on that, but could you, like, imagine being the one to have to make the decision of, no, we're not going to do that because I want more proof that this guy is who he says he is, and we're hoping he'll slip up. And, but you make that decision and then something actually happens and people actually die. Like, I could not imagine that kind of pressure, and that's why I do think cops on some level deserve some respect. But the ones that are the bad apples obviously deserve nothing from anybody. And should not be in the business they're in. You don't get to decide who you protect and who you don't. So, that's just how I feel about that. But I would just hate to be the person that had to make those final decisions like that. You know, it's sad and it's rough, I'm sure. Yay. The Chronicle, on August 7th, 1969, another letter was received at the San Francisco Examiner with the salutation, "Dear Editor, this is the Zodiac speaking." This was the first time the killer had used this name for identification. The letter was a response to Chief Stilt's request for more details that would prove he had killed Michael, Betty, and Arlene in it. The Zodiac included details about the murders that had not yet been released to the public, as well as a message to the police that when they cracked his code, they will have me. On August 8th, 1969, Donald and Betty Hardin of Salinas, California, cracked the 408 symbol cryptogram. It contained a misspelled message in which the killer seemed to reference the Most Dangerous Game. No name appears in this decoded text, and the killer said that he would not give away his identity because it would slow down or stop his slave collection. Like, how do you justify that? I feel like you would have to be medically insane to justify killing people for slavery in the afterlife. Like, there's obviously something genuinely wrong with this person. I mean, we can't deny that. I don't think anybody would dare to deny that because it's very evident that he has some severe problems. But, like, how do you just sit there and say, oh yeah, I'm gonna kill these people because I need an army in the afterlife? And what do you even think it is that you need an army from, you know? What do you think is in the afterlife that you need that much protection from? Like, you're not going to heaven, you murdered 5 people. Like, you're going to hell regardless if you believe in that. So, it just makes no sense to me. On September 27th, 1969, Pacific Union College students Brian Hartnell and Cecilia Shepard were picnicking at Lake Berryessa on a small island connected by a sand spit to Twin Oak Ridge. A white man about 5'11", Chris, you can't speak English, weighing more than 170 pounds, approached them wearing a black executioner's type hood with clip-on sunglasses over the eye holes and a bib-like device on his chest that had a white 3x3 inch cross circle symbol on it. He approached them with a gun, which Hart now believed to be a .45. The hooded man claimed to be an escaped convict from a jail with a two-word name in either Colorado or Montana. A police officer later inferred the man had been referring to a jail in Deer Lodge, Montana, where he had killed a guard and subsequently stolen a car, explaining that he now needed their car and money to travel to Mexico because the vehicle that he had been driving was too hot. The killer brought pre-cut lengths of plastic clothesline and told Cecilia to tie up Brian before he tied her up. The killer checked and tightened Brian's bonds after discovering that Cecilia had bound Brian loosely. Brian initially believed this event to be a bizarre robbery, but the man drew a knife and stabbed them both repeatedly. Hart now is suffering 6 and Cecilia 10 wounds in the process. The killer then hiked 500 yards back up to Knoxville Road, drew the cross circle symbol on Hartnell's car door with a black felt tip pen and wrote beneath it Vallejo 12/20/68 7/4/69 September 27th 69 6:30 by knife. At 7:40 p.m. the killer called the Napa County Sheriff's Office from a pay telephone to report his latest crime. The caller first stated to the operator that he wished to, quote, report a murder, no, a double murder, end quote, before stating that he had been the perpetrator of a crime. The phone was found still off the hook minutes later at the Napa Car Wash on Main Street in Napa by KVON radio reporter Pat Stanley, only a few blocks from the sheriff's office, yet 27 miles from the crime scene. Detectives were able to lift a still wet palm print from the telephone, but were never able to match it to any of the suspects. After hearing the victim's screams for help, a man and his son, who were fishing in a nearby cove, discovered the victims and summoned help by contacting park rangers. Napa County Sheriff's deputies Dave Collins and Ray Land were taken to the Dave Collins and Ray Land were the first law enforcement officers to arrive at the crime scene. Shepard was conscious when Collins arrived, providing him with a detailed description of the attacker. Hartnell and Shepard were taken to Queen of the Valley Hospital in Napa by ambulance. Shepard lapsed into a coma during transport and never regained consciousness. She died 2 days later, but Hartnell survived to recount his tale to the press. Napa County Detective Ken Narlo who was assigned to the case from the outset, worked on solving the crime until his retirement from the department in 1987. 2 weeks later, on October 11, 1969, a white male passenger entered the cab driven by Paul Stein at the intersection of Mason and Geary Streets from 1 block west from Union Square in San Francisco, requesting to be driven to Washington and Maple Streets in Presidio Heights. For reasons unknown, Stein drove 1 block past Maple to Cherry Street. The passenger then shot Stein once in the head with a 9mm handgun, took Stein's wallet and car keys, and tore away a section of Stein's blood-stained shirt. Tail. The perp was observed by 3 teenagers across the street at 9:55 p.m. and they phoned the police while the crime was in progress. They observed a man wiping the cab down before walking away toward the Presidio, 1 block north, 2 blocks from the crime, toward the Presidio. 1 block north, 2 blocks from the crime scene, patrol officers Don Fouque and Eric Zelms, responding to the call, observed a white man walking along the sidewalk east on Jackson Street and stepping onto a stairway leading up to the front yard of one of the homes on the north side of the street. The encounter lasted only 5 to 10 seconds. Fouque estimated that the white male pedestrian to be 35 to 45 years old, 5 foot 10 inches tall, with a crew cut similar to but slightly older than the description provided by the teenagers who observed the killer in and out of Stein's cab. The teenagers described the suspect to be 25 to 30 years older with a crew cut and standing approximately 5 foot 8 inches. However, the police radio dispatcher had alerted officers to look out for a black suspect, so Fouque and Zelms drove past. The perpetrator was set out without stopping. The mix-up in descriptions remains unexplained. A search ensued, but no suspects were found. This was the last officially confirmed murder by the Zodiac killer. On October 14th, 1969, the Chronicle received another letter from the Zodiac, this time containing a swatch of Paul Stein's shirt tail as proof he was the killer. It also included a threat about killing school children on a school bus. To do this, Zodiac wrote, "Just shoot out the front tire and then pick off the kitties as they come bouncing out." At 2 p.m. on October 20th, 1969, someone claiming to be the Zodiac called the Oakland Police Department, demanding that one of 2 prominent lawyers, F. Lee Bailey or Melvin Belly, appear on AM San Francisco, a talk show, KGO TV, hosted by Jim Dunbar. Bailey was not available, but Belly did appear on the show. Dunbar appealed to the viewers to keep the lines open. Someone claiming to be the Zodiac called several times, and Belly asked the caller for a less ominous name. And, skipped a couple pages there. And the caller picked Sam. The caller said he would not reveal his true identity as he was afraid of being sent to the gas chamber, then California's capital punishment method. Belly arranged a rendezvous to meet the caller outside a shop on Mission Street in Daly City, but no one arrived because, duh. The call was later traced back to a patient in a mental institution, and investigators concluded that this man was not the Zodiac. I like how you could eliminate everybody, but you can't figure out who it is. On November 8th, 1969, the Zodiac mailed a card with another cryptogram consisting of 340 characters. This cipher, dubbed Z340, remained unsolved for over 51 years. On December 5th, 2020, it was deciphered by an international team of private citizens, including American software engineer David Oranchak, Australian mathematician Sam Blake, and Belgian programmer Jarl van Eyck. In the decrypted message, the Zodiac denied being the Sam who spoke on AM San Francisco, explaining that he was not afraid of the gas chamber because it will send me to paradise. He was not afraid of the gas chamber, quote, because it will send me to paradise all the sooner, end quote. The team submitted their findings to the FBI, which verified the discovery. The FBI stated that the decoded message gave no further clues to the identity of the Zodiac. On November 9th, 1969, the Zodiac mailed a 7-page letter stating that 2 policemen stopped and actually spoke with him 3 minutes after he shot Stein. Excerpts from the letter were published in the Chronicle on November 12th, including the Zodiac's claim. That same day, Officer Don Fouque wrote a memo explaining what had happened on the night of Stein's murder. On December 20th, 1969, exactly 1 year after the murders of David Faraday and Betty Louise Jensen, The Zodiac mailed a letter to Belly that included another swatch of Stein's shirt. The Zodiac said that he wanted Belly to help him. Various authors have speculated at the time of the killings that other murders and attacks may have been the work of the Zodiacs, but none have been confirmed. Local historian Christy Hawthorne suggests that the Zodiac may have murdered cab driver Ray Davis in April 1962 in Oceanside, California. On April 9th, that's my birthday, 1962, the day before the murder, an individual believed to be the culprit had phoned the Oceanside Police Department and told them, quote, "I am going to pull something here in Oceanside and you'll never be able to figure it out." A few days after the murder, the police received another call from who was presumed to be the same individual, in which he told police details of the murder and said he would kill a bus driver next. Following Hawthorne's research, Oceanside Police announced that they were looking into possible connections between the murder and the Zodiac. Bill Baker of the Santa Barbara County Sheriff's Office postulated that the 1963 murders of a young couple in northern Santa Barbara County might have been the work of the Zodiac killer. On June 4th, 1963, high school senior Robert Domingos and his fiancée Linda Edwards were shot dead on a beach near Lompoc, having skipped school that day for senior ditch day. Police believe that the believed that the assailant attempted to bind the victims, but when they freed themselves and attempted to flee, the killer shot them repeatedly in the back and the chest with a .22 caliber weapon. The killer then placed their bodies in a small shack, and then tried unsuccessfully to burn the structure to the ground. Sherry Jo Bates, 18, was stabbed to death and nearly decapitated on October 30th, 1966 at Riverside City College in Riverside. Bates' possible connection to the Zodiac only appeared 4 years after her murder, when San Francisco Chronicle reporter Paul Avery received a tip regarding similarities between the Zodiac killings and the circumstances surrounding Sherry's death. Kathleen Johns, 22, was allegedly abducted on March 22nd, 1970, on Highway 132 near I-580 in an area west of Modesto. Johns escaped from the car of a man who drove her and her infant daughter around the area between Stockton and Patterson for approximately 1.5 hours. Donna Ann Last, 25, was last seen on September 6, 1970 in State Line, Nevada. A postcard bearing an ad for Forest Pines condos near Incline Village at Lake Tahoe, pasted on the back, was received at the Chronicle on March 22nd, 1971. No evidence has been discovered to connect Last's disappearance with the Zodiac killer. After the Lake Tahoe car, the Zodiac remained silent for nearly 3 years. The Chronicle then received a letter from the Zodiac, postmarked January 29, 1974, praising The Exorcist as the best satirical comedy that I have ever seen, end quote. The letter included a snippet of verse from the Mikado and an unusual symbol at the bottom that has remained unexplained by researchers. Zodiac concluded the letter with a news score, Me 37, SFPD 0. In April 2004, the SFPD marked the case inactive, citing caseload pressure and resource demands, effectively closing the case. However, they reopened their case sometime before March 2007. The case is open in Napa County and in the city of Riverside. In May 2018, the Vallejo Police Department announced their intention to attempt to collect the Zodiac killer's DNA from the back of stamps he used during his correspondence. The analysis by a private laboratory was expected to check the DNA against GED match. It was the hope that the Zodiac killer may be caught in a similar fashion to the Golden State Killer, Joseph James D'Angelo. In May 2018, a Vallejo police detective said that results were expected in several weeks. However, as of June 2022, no results have been reported. Suspects included Arthur Lee Allen, Gary Francis Poste, Joseph, a.k.a. Giuseppe, I'm going to butcher this, Bevelaku, Richard Gayakowski, George Hotel, also rumored to be the 1947 Black Dahlia killer, whose victims included Elizabeth Short, Lawrence K., Richard Marshall, Louis Joseph Myers, Robert Ivan Nichols, Ross Sullivan, Jack Terrence, George Russell Tucker, Earl Van Best Jr., a merchant mariner, an unknown man once pictured with Darlene Ferrin, and at least 3 other men suspected to be working as a team. Cleared suspects included Ted Bundy, Edward Edwards, Ted Kaczynski, and the Manson family. All were eliminated. That is the entire 12-page segment on the Zodiac killer. I hope you all enjoyed it. I hope you learned something from it. As always, please, please do what is best for you, but don't do anything I wouldn't do, and be cautiously kind to others. You never know. Today's makeup look was based on The Incredibles. Tomorrow I will be doing James and the Giant Peach, so be sure to be here for that. I will see you all tomorrow. You have a wonderful day. Be good and make good choices. Bye-bye.